Hello, and a very big warm welcome to everybody out there on the interwebs. Welcome if you've just joined us. Hopefully, there's going to be many people joining us today for this fantastic event hosted by Oxford University Press. Today, we are giving you some sneak previews into ELTOC. This is the English Language Teaching online conference, a fantastic annual event. And we have not just myself, but Tammy and Leanne joining us today. So give us a wave. They're giving presentations as well as myself. We've got tons of fantastic speakers who are all going to be giving brilliant talks as part of this online conference. I'm going to be chatting to Leanne and Tammy very soon. It's the fifth annual celebration of ELTOC. So it's a 5-year milestone to celebrate. And yes, if you haven't heard of ELTOC before, what it is a brilliant conference in which all of the brilliant trending topics are discussed by experts in their field, and we're joined by educators worldwide. So probably a lot of you tuning in now are English language teachers yourself or involved in this area. Do give us a shout. Do type where you are tuning in from. If you've been to ELTOC before, do rant and rave about this, and also let us know what you're drinking. I myself have a fine brew of English tea. It's Rooibos or Red Bush, sometimes described. So I'm going to be sipping on that. Leanne, Tammy, what are you drinking today?
I've got a good cup of English tea. Can't really go wrong with it, can you?
Cheers, cheers. Tammy?
It's not 5 o'clock yet.
It's not 5 o'clock yet. Okay. Just a little window into fantastic stuff, guys. So yes, and this is a very interactive stream. So please just fire us questions. We'll try and answer as many as we can today. And I'm very, very, very excited. So I'm going to start introducing people now. Leanne, could you give us a little short spiel about who you are and what you're going to be talking about in your talk at ELTOC?
Yeah. Of course I can. Hi, everybody. It's lovely to see you all joining in the comments. Yeah, my name is Leanne. I am a qualified teacher, and I've spent quite a bit of time traveling and teaching abroad. But most recently, I've started working in a special school in Oxfordshire in the UK. And yeah, it's amazing. I've learned so much over the last year or so. So there's lots of stuff going on in my talk, but I'm going to be sharing some little bite-sized tips and things that I've picked up along the way with you. So very quick.
Fantastic. Right, brilliant. I can't wait.
Over to Tammy.
Hey guys, my name is Tammy Gregerson, and I normally reside in the United Arab Emirates. I train teachers at the American University of Sharjah. If any of you don't know Sharjah, it's the emirate right next to Dubai. So most people know Dubai. Sharjah's right next door. I am thrilled to see this amazingly international group that's here in the chat box, because you know what, I'll tell you something. I became a teacher in the first place because I wanted to see the world before I died. That was my idea. And somehow, you know what, just having you here with me today kind of gives me this feeling of, oh, I'm meeting my dream. It's coming true. So, and I'm seeing mucha gente que habla español. I was living in Chile for 17 years. And that's where I started my teaching career. I got my master's there, my PhD there. And so I always feel a very special affinity to Latin America and South America. And yeah, so that was where I started. So now I'm teaching in the American University of Sharjah. I work in a graduate program in TESOL. And I'm just passionate about teacher training before anything else. And so like you, I'm a teacher. Before everything. I mean, I have to say I'm an applied linguist second, a teacher first. So, woohoo! I can't wait to share with you guys during ELTOC what I've got on well-being in a very special contextualized event that I'm going to tell you about when it's my turn again. I've got to keep you in suspense just a little bit.
A big reveal there, yeah.
Yeah, we got to have a big reveal. I don't want anybody to go away. You see, if I reveal it all right now, they're all going to go and, I don't know, do their laundry, because I need to keep them here for a while.
Okay, you've got me thinking now, Tammy. I'm going to do the same approach. I'm going to be telling people about how I've been teaching English recently using one of these with students. So imagine the possibilities of using this kind of technology for the classroom, state-of-the-art stuff. I can see loads of people writing in with their comments. Hi to Mohammed, Sijit, Akbar Ali, Gustavo, hi, how are you doing? Sylvia, Jamal, Naziyet, Abdullah, Alan, Colin, Laura, hey, how are you doing? Mahuja, Rasa, Alexander, Mark, Michaela, tons of people. Really, really excited to see you tuning in. If you're just joining us, we're having a sneak preview of our ELTOC webinars. Very special event. Now then, let's go to Leanne. And Leanne, we want to hear a bit more about your talk about SEND. Can I say SEND? Special educational needs, and how this relates to the field of English language teaching, your experience. So, Well,
just one thing that the people have to know, just so they stay until the end, that Leanne and I, we both agreed that we will not come to this if we have to go before Tom, because Tom,
we had an awkward sort of practice of this event, and they were basically so impressed by my presentation,
right?
They decided that I should go last.
You know what, Tom? Even though Leanne and I are much prettier than you, you do have a more interesting topic. So
it's subjective.
But what's more subjective, us being prettier or you having a better topic? No subjectivity to letter A.
We're getting off topic.
So on that note, we'll kick it off and I'll go first. So yeah, as you said, Tom, my talk is all about teaching SEND learners, which is learners with special educational needs and disabilities in the English language classroom. And I was kind of thinking about what can I share in this session? And it kind of forced me to reflect a little bit on the last couple of years. And it's definitely been a bit of a rocky roller coaster and a tricky one for us teachers, I know. But along with the lows, there's been so many amazing highs. And I've had lots of highlights over the last couple of years. So I thought I would share one of my highlights with you. And while you're watching along, maybe you could type in the comments box any of the highlights or the things that you've just absolutely loved doing over the last year or two. So I teach secondary learners, and I have 9 learners in my class with a whole range of different needs and abilities. And last year I had one learner who mainly communicated using her eyes and eye gaze. So I worked really closely with one of my team, my classroom support officer, which sounds very official, my teaching assistant, to develop something called a pod book. Now, I'm not going to give too much away because this is something that I'm exploring in my talk, so make sure you sign up. But we basically used images, symbols, and pictures to create something that was personalized and tailored to her, so that she was able to use her eyes to communicate with us. And actually, it was really lovely for functional context through the day, so that she could choose what she wanted to eat or who she wanted to play with in the class. So that was a really amazing moment for me and gave her a way to communicate. Again, communication, augmented communication, how we speak with our learners and discuss things with them is something else I'm going to be exploring in my talk. So make sure you sign up and do let us know if you've had any teaching experiences that are similar to this. I can see there's a couple of comments coming through. But yeah, it was one of the things that I've really enjoyed. And along with the things that I've talked about in my talk at ELTOC, I will be giving lots of little bite-sized practical tips and ideas that you can use in your classrooms yourself.
Fantastic. I remember teaching a student who had ADHD. I only found out like a couple of weeks into teaching him that he had ADHD, and as you do, you adapt in the classroom, and you think, you know, how can we kind of use this as a strength? And in the end, he loved doing presentations, and it was just an excuse for him to get up and just use this frenetic energy, and he loved it, and that worked for him. So he ended up doing a little presentation very often in our classes, and you know, it was just really nice. And I'm really glad that things are moving in that direction, embracing people with whatever you know, difficulties they may have and stuff. It's really positive.
Yeah, and I touched on something else that is really important as part of my talk, is just getting to know your learners and what works for them and what doesn't, and one size doesn't fit all, because like you said, there's so many different things that you can do and adapt in the classroom.
Yeah, all work in different ways.
Brilliant. Right, that's enough from me. Tammy, I'm going to pass over to you so you can tell us a little bit about your talk.
Yeah, well, you know what, Tom shared a situation where he had a very special learner. In the UAE, we call our students students of determination. That's the phrase that they use. So I love that. But first of all, I have to do a huge send out to my girl, Annette Putnam, who I notice is here. She and I go way back. University of Northern Iowa, go Panthers! And the story I'm going to tell right now actually occurred at the University of Northern Iowa. Anyway, so this is the scoop. I was studying at the time, my research, right now I study well-being, and I study teacher and learner well-being, and that's essentially what my topic is going to be about coming up next week. But as I study wellness, I often also study the dysfunctions of, you know, psychological things. And so I was working at the University of Northern Iowa, and there was a colleague of mine who was speech pathology. And she had a learner, an 8-year-old bilingual learner who was a selective mute. What that meant was that he, at the time, at home, he blah, 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 blah in both languages. Not a problem at all. But the minute he stepped out the door, boop, he would not say a word. So the school contacted the University of Northern Iowa and our speech pathology department to see if there was anything that we could do to help him. And because I am a multilingual or bilingual myself, I speak Spanish. And also I was studying social anxieties, right? And selective mutism really is, you know, the peak of social anxiety. At the time, I was working with with a couple of graduate students on positive psychology interventions. And one of my graduate students, I'll give her a huge shout out right now, Jessica St. John. I know that Annette knows her. Jessica St. John is a veteran, a Marine veteran from Afghanistan. She's American, but was in Afghanistan. And when she came back, she had very severe PTSD. And so she was given a support dog. And this dog was extremely well trained. It was a therapy dog. And so I approached Jessica, and I said, Jessica, if we can get permission to bring in the dog for some pet therapy, what do you say? Can you bring him in? And so we worked through all the permissions. We got Butch, the dog. We got Butch into the university, and I was sitting behind a one-way window with his mother. Okay, we could see them, but they couldn't see us, because it was in a research environment, right? And so I had worked with the speech path clinician about what we were going to do with the dog to get the child to speak. So you know how they oftentimes use therapy dogs to get kids to read in the library, right?
Yeah.
Well, our idea was that dogs don't ever laugh at anybody or create anxiety other than I'm afraid of the dog, but you're never afraid of a social anxiety with the dog, right? Mm-hmm. And so the idea would be that the child would give commands to the dog. And this kid, remember, it had been years since he had opened or spoken in outside the house. Mm-hmm. And so the clinician showed how to take the ball, and he threw it and said, "Fetch!" Right? And so they gave the ball to the dog, the ball to the kid, mm-hmm. and he took the ball and he shouted, "Fetch!" And all of us just broke down and sobbed.
Yeah.
We were sobbing. You know what? Because these therapies that are pet therapies or positive psychology interventions that are working for the good of humanity and the good for people really do have some really valuable lessons. So
Love that.
how does that relate to what I'm going to be doing next week? How that relates is I'm going to be continuing on the topic of wellness. Okay. But in the case of what we're going to be talking about next week is we're going to actually be talking about climate change and the fallout, the psychological and emotional fallout that some of us feel about climate change. And you would be very surprised to know, I think some of you would be very surprised to know, that there are actually in the world today therapists who dedicate themselves full time to eco-anxiety and eco-guilt, right? So what we're going to be going through is other colleagues in my section are going to be talking about activities for teachers to work through with their kids on everything ecological. Okay. And so we're going to get very, we're going to understand that whole 21st century global skill, right, of getting involved in saving the world and saving the environment. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working with teachers to help their students over the emotional fallout. Okay, so the topic that my title is Tackling the Emotional Fallout of Climate Change in ELT. And so we're going to be working through wellness activities where learners are going to be able to work together on getting over those feelings of guilt or anxiety. I mean, really, I tell you now, if I go to the grocery store and I forget my canvas bag, I go home carrying it all in my arms. Because they'll say, do you want a plastic bag? And I'll say, no, I've got to save the planet, right? And so, I mean, my eco guilt has moved me to action, but I'm not sure that my action is the appropriate one. I need to remember those canvas bags first. But anyway, so that's what I'm going to be talking about next week, and I can't wait to share my ideas, or the ideas that I've researched and found and worked with. And so I hope that you can all join me because I'm super excited about the topic. So yeah, back to you, Tom.
Such an important topic, Tammy, and I think we've all tried to introduce that topic into our classrooms, and sometimes we're on a sort of triumphant, like we can do this, and and other times it is just harrowing. And I believe that what really gets people to act is when they actually do engage emotionally with that incredibly deeply sad,
right,
catastrophic component.
Right.
And so it's really hard. I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but as a teacher that wants to have great classes and students enjoying themselves and everything, when you do come to those difficult topics, it can be incredibly hard to do them even in the first place.
Yeah.
And sometimes it depends what day it is and how people are feeling and things, but it's so important to do that. I feel if people came to their talk and they had those mechanisms that you're going to show to deal with that and feel supported themselves, and I'm sure it ties into as well how students can deal with this as well as the teachers, then we can all share those skills and all benefit from that talk.
Tom, what often moves our learners from the eco guilt to the eco anxiety is having lived through one of the manifestations of climate change. And so if I've got any teachers out there who had forest fire devastation near where they are and the students lived through that, or people who live in hurricane areas or tornado areas and they've actually suffered the impact of climate change, those people who have actually lived through it tend to have a harder time, and rightly so, right, with the issues of eco anxiety. So particularly, I mean, it's for everybody, right? But particularly teachers who have had learners who have suffered firsthand through some of this, really important stuff that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and I guess it's that awareness as well, isn't it? Just discussing it, awareness, because future generations is going to become even more and more important.
Right.
So yeah, just having those conversations and figuring out how to teach that.
Right.
Definitely. Questions are coming in. We've got a couple that are about teaching different levels in the classroom. And how do you deal with learners of different levels? Quite a universal question, that one, that we could all chip into. Because, in particular, how do you assess them when you're assessing them on a daily basis? I guess not all teachers have specifically leveled groups. Sometimes they're all lumped in together. And the same comment again in different words, also asking for any methodology to be followed. Of course, this is even more difficult if you've got students with special educational needs and disabilities here. Tammy, you're bursting to go.
I know. You know what? Because I want to talk to Farham, because he asked a super interesting question. And it's something, I actually teach an assessment class at the university. And one of the things that I really try hard to do is make sure that my instruction and my assessment are so closely related that the students don't know where my instruction ends and my assessment begins. Because remember, I'm the one who wants to deal with the emotional fallout, right? And so one of the important things that we talk about in my language, in my teacher ed classes, is to make sure that there's that really smooth transition. So what can I say about assessing people on a daily basis? Keep assessment daily, but use assessment rather than as a punitive measure. Use it as something that's celebratory and provides feedback on what students know and not what they need to fix. Because the problem that we have when we go into language teaching is that we perceive our learners as something that's broken that needs to be fixed. What is it that they don't know? Right? But if we can change that deficit perspective to one of appreciative inquiry, where we're actually celebrating, do you know what you got today? Wow, you did an amazing job on these 3 ideas that you just took care of. Let me show you the advancement that you made today. You did this, this, this. I am so proud of you. Tomorrow we're going to work on this again. But you know what? Congratulations, because I'm going to give you some fantastic feedback today. Woohoo! Right? I think it makes a difference.
I want to be in one of your classes.
I want you to be my teacher.
I'm good at happy dances.
I think
Tam, go ahead.
Just like if you bring into our attention what a juggling act teaching is, there's so many objectives that we need to fulfill and want to fulfill as well, not just the assessment and improving English, but one of the things that gets me excited about the talk that I'm doing is how I've always tried to imagine how much more how better improved the education I had could have been. And in life you have maybe 1 or 2 really special teachers and they inspire you, and you want to kind of recreate that for your students and even improve on it. And as well as having these important issues to introduce and students with different levels, different skills, different needs to accommodate, you want to use every tool at your disposal to give the best lessons possible. Not only is it more enjoyable for the students, it's more enjoyable for the teacher too. So we try and pour our heart and souls in and do everything we can. So you can imagine my excitement when over lockdown in England, I had the opportunity not just to teach online, which I'd never done before, but to teach in virtual reality. And so this is where this high-tech thing that I'm going to be discussing in my talk next week on Friday, 7 till 8, I'm going to be talking about how this new technology can be integrated into the classroom, essentially. Some of you may or may not have heard about virtual reality before. Some of you may have tried Google Cardboard, which is the thing where you put your phone in this cardboard thing and it divides the screen, and that is nothing compared to this. This is like stepping into a different reality. You've got two separate screens inside, one for each eye, that gives us a slightly different image for each perspective, so that it's not flat, it feels completely 3-dimensional. And you've got controllers and things as well that allow you to move your hands and grip and shoot all sorts of things. So I was very, very excited by this, and I had already played around with this because my father is always up to the minute with gaming technology and stuff. So my mind was racing. What's this going to be like? Are they going to build a virtual school or something? And I was thinking about where I might take my students and how it might work and everything. And the technology was introduced to me, and I realized that as a teacher, you don't actually need one of these. You can do everything from your desktop. It's the students that wear these. As a teacher, you can also enter the environment with a headset if you want, and if you have one. But what I want to share today is a preview of the desktop program, the software that the teacher uses. If you come to my talk, you will see also some footage of students actually in the environment and what it's like really teaching a lesson in virtual reality. And I'll be trying to capture that from the student's perspective and the teacher's perspective, talk about the advantages, the disadvantages, but really give people a whistle-stop tour of this technology, which they may end up using in future as well. The technology is moving really, really fast with this. It's tremendously exciting. Every month it goes on leaps and bounds, and new features are added, and it's very, very mind-blowing. If it's all right with you guys, I'm going to share my screen now, and the wizards backstage will be helping me to do that as well. And I'll show you now what the software is like, and it's called Immerse, and it's very immersive. So
exciting.
Okay, this is my screen. All right, so hopefully you can see now this virtual reception area with a floating school bus outside. So this is kind of the first environment that the students enter. I've got my mouse here, and if I click and drag, I can change my perspective of this virtual world, and students will pop up around here. If I go into first person perspective myself, I can see their attendant pop up in here and welcome them. And this is a completely immersive experience. And what they are able to do in this first environment is to get to grips with their controllers. So you can see, they can walk around, and with their controllers, they can move their arms and things. As a teacher, I've got my own animations that I can do. It could be clapping, encouraging a student, or, celebrating when they do get the right answer or something like that. Teleporting can make traveling around a little bit quicker, these little circles on the floor. And these are completely interactive environments where you can, pick up something and interact with it. Eat a virtual banana. Just imagine that, eating a virtual banana. I can almost taste it. I don't know about you guys. This is what it looks like. And I've got a whole menu on the left-hand side here. And I've got all sorts of tools that I can use. So, for example, if I get a whiteboard here, I can position that in the space, and I can type on it, and also I can draw on it as well. And students can write on these too. Infinite amount of whiteboards, and all sorts of features. Somewhere I'd like to take you first is our meeting room, essentially the virtual classroom. So if you were teaching a lesson, this might be one of the first places you decide to go, maybe just to revise some grammar that you've learned, or introduce some sort of warmer activity. This board here, you can load up PowerPoint presentations, play a YouTube video, and the students can sit and have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, and maybe then afterwards you go into the breakout area and have a little discussion, and then you get into this realm of creativity, where as a teacher or a software designer, you think, what could I put into this? Where could we go? How could what kind of environments could best educate and allow for immersive learning and great fluency practice, especially. You could tell a story around the campfire here. This is a nice one. We've got a news station. They are doing a news presentation, something like that. We've got got a news desk here. I can load up images and videos there. A green screen here. We can select images on the background here. All sorts of stuff. Let me show you another location. Pick a location, guys. Tammy.
Yeah. Sure.
Where would you like to go?
Restaurant. I want a Mexican restaurant.
You want a Mexican restaurant? Okay. We've got a fast food restaurant and we've got a restaurant.
No, I want a restaurant. I don't do fast food.
Okay. All right.
That's
I want to go to a deserted island after, I think.
Okay.
No holiday, why not?
Relax a little bit. Oh, so here we are in the restaurant. You know, you can imagine doing role plays, and to be honest, role plays are the most obvious way in which this technology could be used. Great features are that you can change your avatar, and the students can do this as well. So you know, if they wanted to, be a hot dog guy, or you see how I'm a hot dog guy now, or maybe this could be for anything. You could have an environment where you're using modals of deduction, and everyone are police officers, and they go to the crime scene, and they have to use this language. Just one of the many perks of this software. I can also point at things, shoot lasers out of my hands. You can't do that in reality. What else have we got? Students have their own virtual backpack, and so they can take notes, and these can be basically left in the space. It's really something that I'll be talking about in the advantages and disadvantages, really, because these notes can't be taken with them into the physical world as such, but they can be saved on a computer, and there's still sort of practical problem-solving mindset of the teacher to see how this technology can be used to its best effect. And so it's been really special for me as someone that's been working with the people designing this software and giving them feedback and seeing it evolve as it does. There's a button that I won't press now, which allows me to share my webcam as well. So if I wanted a screen of my webcam to appear, I could do that and talk to students. Let's go to the beach for you, Leanne.
Thanks.
Where is it? Oh, here we go, deserted island. So one of the things that was great about this, and I use the past tense for that, is that this island used to have a fantastic kind of problem-solving puzzle task where the students had to chop down some trees and get some wood so they could make a fire, and then catch some fish and survive on this island and stuff. One of the disadvantages of this software is that it can do an update, and then an environment can change slightly, and then suddenly the lesson that you've loved so much and built lesson plans for suddenly changes because they've rearranged things around. But in general, I'll be arguing in my talk that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, especially as a lot of the disadvantages are temporary, and the technology is being improved so much all the time. So let's go and have a look at this guy over here. Doesn't look too healthy.
Just chilling.
Just chilling by the treasure chest. And last but not least, I'll take you to this observation platform, which is quite special because it integrates 360 images from all around the world. So this essentially allows your students to go to a multitude of different areas. Let's go to Oxford Museum. Oh no, let's go to the Palace Pier where I am in Brighton. Maybe I've been doing a lesson on my hometown, and then I can transport my students.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to Brighton this weekend.
Oh, great. Give us a shout, Leanne. I'll give you a tour in the real world. So yeah, really nice.
Dubai? Can you go to Dubai?
Let's have a look. So what have we got at the moment? We've got a USA section, world section. Dubai, Taj
It'll be a
Mahal.
bit sunnier there for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot air balloons.
Where are you going?
Maybe this is Turkey.
Wow.
Look at that.
So realistic, doesn't it?
Wow.
To do
It
that.
can be quite disturbing when a student, steps
I
out
was
of
going to say,
their.
can you fall off?
Yeah, a student fall off the edge once. Yeah,
For real?
that would be one of my personal highlights. It was quite amusing.
Can you make yourself fall off?
I can't because I've got a boundary. But if I wanted to fall off, what I would do is I would jump in with my goggles, and then I would essentially, be in my kitchen or my living room, and I'd just step beyond this
Do it.
because I physically can,
Do
and then
Do it.
I can't. Yeah, I don't have the time to load that up. But anyway, you get the gist. It's incredibly powerful software, and it's in its infancy. We've only really now got the processing power to put all of this into a headset that wirelessly is connected to the internet. So it's exciting stuff. Let me stop sharing my screen now.
Well, now everybody can see why we didn't want to follow you with our. I mean, how do you compete with that?
It's one thing that I'm trying to communicate in my talk is how immersive it is, and I give the example of these videos online on YouTube where you can see people trying it for the first time. You put them on a roller coaster, and they know it's not real, but the body is so primed for the senses that it doesn't believe your mind, and you're there on the roller coaster. Conversely, if you're in a meditation app and you look at the stars, you feel this profound sense of connection to the universe. It's not the universe at all, it's a load of pixels. But this is the power of it, and you really can't appreciate it until you've tried it.
You know what, Tom? Because as a person who studies affect, and emotional characteristics in language learning, I mean, you with this new technology, you are doing exactly what we want to do, which is lower the anxiety levels and make it fun and exciting, because it's when we're involved in this fun and exciting stuff that we can, lower all the barriers and just rush in and embrace the language learning, not think about, am I saying this right? But just trying to make people communicate. I love it. I love it. Congratulations. That's just so cool.
Thank you. Yeah, don't praise me. Praise
for you and the team that's creating the programming, right? And
yeah. I mean, it is very exciting. I mean, someone's asking a question: is it free? And one of these costs £300 to £400 on Amazon, depending on how much memory you choose to have in it. But if you think about the cost that you would be saving traveling to another country to study and your hotel accommodation, food, this kind of thing, you could say that pays for itself. I believe these. Sorry, do a bake sale. You could do, yeah. I believe the price of these is subsidized already because Mark Zuckerberg is trying to get everyone to have these, and he's renamed Facebook Meta, talking about the metaverse, which will be combining virtual reality with reality, superimposing both together. So you have augmented reality. So you'll look around and you'll see, essentially holograms of virtual three-dimensional things in your space, in your house, in your street.
This is way off. My question is really going to be weird.
Go for it.
I'm just thinking of all of the uses of this. Do you think that people will be using these for therapy later? I mean, because you in therapy.
I was about to say they've already been using it for therapy. And so, for example, if you've got fear of spiders, they put you in a room where there's a spider 2 buildings away. And then they say, how are you? You're okay, right? And then they put it in the building that's next door to you. And then they put it, really far away. And within a few sessions, it's so powerful that people can have a real spider on their hand because they've built up for it using virtual reality.
Their phobias just disappear.
Wow. Which is incredible.
Wow, you know what? I want to buy one of those myself.
Yeah. Katie's asking, does the app allow multiplayer in real time? Yes, that's the whole point. So the software, oh, sorry, not Katie, it's Farhad asking that. Yeah, Farhad, that's the whole point. This is not being used just for schools. It's also for businesses to go into virtual workspaces together, or to go to a virtual conference. It's not just to sort of serious stuff. It's the social end as well, to go and play with colleagues and do fun interactive games. So this has the potential not just to be a virtual school, but a virtual social program for students. They can go, paintballing or play basketball or that kind of stuff together. So, yeah, it pays. You could say it pays for itself in so many ways, and it's just the beginning. I've loved to be in that creative position where I'm thinking, how can this use this? How can I use this? All of a sudden, there's a virtual gym. Like now, my students can exercise at the same time as learning English. Present continuous. What's he doing? He's pumping iron. Yeah. What's he doing? He's climbing the rock wall. Yeah. It's so fun.
Right.
And actually, it's especially brilliant with young learners, because they pick up the technology just like that, and they're away, and it's just instinctive to them. In fact, one of the most fun moments that I've had is when I was with some younger learners, and they discovered that they could take their virtual post-it notes out of their bag, stand on them, pull the post-it note towards them, and levitate to the sky. So that my students started flying up to the sky like this, and getting more notepads out and building platforms and stuff, and we were in the virtual wizards classroom at the time, so there was that kind of air of magic already. And
right.
The teacher's down there, let's build some stairs down to them. All the students are building a staircase for me because I was in the software I just showed you, and then I walked up to them. And we had this very spontaneous thing just from a glitch that now I hope they will integrate as a real thing, a level where you build something together. So that was just an accidental development, and sometimes great things come from
Well,
it.
you know what? As you were doing this, and I mentioned the therapy thing because I was just kind of giggling about it, but I'm thinking about all of the interventions that we like to do in positive psychology for wellness, for learner wellness, for teacher wellness. And when you mentioned that you can write things on Post-it notes, and you can do random acts of kindness for somebody else's avatar.
Exactly. Yeah, there's another idea,
right? So I mean, we can carry out all these cool interventions through avatars. What a cool idea! I'll be nice to your avatar if you're nice to mine.
Yeah, exactly.
We did something similar. The technology wasn't quite as epic as that, but we did a bit of a networking event, because a lot of my students are thinking about where they're going to go after school, and they had characters and they could move around, and then it kind of popped up videos with different companies and businesses that would then chat to them for like a minute or two, and then they would go off and find someone else in the software. So I do think it draws them in, and then there's these really useful things that you can do and exciting things that you can do with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I mean, Leanne, do you see how easy it would be for you to differentiate instruction with this? I mean, I see all with your people of determination. Wow, what amazing things we'd be able to do to work with special needs.
Yeah, so a lot of my learners, there's probably about 3 or 4 of them that have their own individual iPads, and they have apps on the iPad which are voice activated, so they can communicate for those that are non-verbal. But there's already technology being introduced, and if you could add to that, and they can hear the sound of the words, it's just it's incredible, isn't it?
So much. That is just so cool. That is.
So if you just joined us, we're talking about this fantastic event, ELTOC, English Language Teaching Online Conference. I've been doing a talk on virtual reality in the classroom. Leanne's talking about special educational needs and disabilities, tactics for that in the classroom. And Tammy's talking about climate change and how the wellness of teachers should be better informed, so we can take care of ourselves and better take care of our students. Do let us know if you've got questions. We're going to try and do as many as we can of these. We've got 15 more minutes left. I'm really enjoying it so far, guys. I don't know about you. I think my tea's getting cold. I'm going to have another little sip.
Definitely. managed to
Well,
do
like I said, and I see that more people are coming in from different parts of the world. That is just cool. I
Brilliant.
just saw a colleague of mine come in from Costa Rica. I did a Fulbright in Costa Rica about 3 years ago. Hi, Diana. Good to see you, sweet pea.
Yeah. Tammy, I feel like I need all of your tips for traveling and
right. Pura vida. That, well, you know what? Well, just as a cultural aside, the ticos, that's what Costa Ricans call themselves, tico, and so ticos have this the most amazing saying in the world, and they greet each other with it. It's like it says hello, it says goodbye, it says how you doing. It's pura vida.
Oh, I love that.
Pure life. Pure life. Pura vida. And that's, I mean, and it's just so, and the Costa Rican people are just so friendly and so amazingly alive. It's just so fun. So Diana, I just saw her pop up there again. It's good to, thank you for coming, Diana. And you tell all those other loafers that I used to work with down there, why aren't they here?
Let's jump on some more of these questions. We've got a question, what is the name of it? So the software I was just showing you is called Immerse, and this latest headset is the Oculus Quest 2. So Immerse and the Oculus Quest 2. Another question, what's the main difference of this environment over Second Life? You guys remember Second Life? It was quite a craze and it's gone down now. People famously spent a lot of time in this virtual space, Second Life.
Was that the thing that used to call things?
No, that's Pac-Man. You've gone back too far. Yeah, I mean, if you think about a contemporary game like Grand Theft Auto now, it's a massively multiplayer, huge sandbox space where you can go into huge areas. These areas aren't so big, probably because the processing power isn't so much yet. I have to keep saying yet because everything's being improved all the time. Yes, Second Life seems to have disappeared, but this is emerging. And remember, with Second Life, you didn't have the immersion that this provides. So it is very different. And as I was arguing, it doesn't matter that the graphics are quite basic; they're far from photorealistic. But it doesn't matter because your body believes you, and it's so great to interact with real human beings in a virtual environment, and all the rest of it. I hope that answers your question. We've got a question here. Do you think that such games would make students take learning seriously? Reading that, I thought your question was the opposite. Like, do you think that they're just going to mess around and not learn at all? It's about teacher training, essentially, to get them to use it to its strengths, and seeing the software develop as well. So now, for example, there is a button called focus mode. And what that does is essentially get students to all kind of go like this, and they have to listen to your instructions or focus on whatever you want them to, and then you unclick focus mode, and they can stop playing around. It stops them from playing around with all this, incredibly immersive stuff. So that's one example of a feature that has been integrated in to allow for easier, teaching. Because if you did that,
I think that sometimes not just language teachers, but I think we underestimate the power of play.
Yeah,
and I think that even I'm only I'm almost 28, and I still like to play.
Oh yeah, definitely with you in your philosophy of play there. I never want my inner child to go, and memory retention is so much better through play in the brain, and that's just one of many reasons why play is beneficial. Obviously, this feels like a real experience when you're at the virtual airport and you're handing your passport over. I'd argue there's no better practice for that than to climb into one of these virtual environments. So totally.
You touched on it before, Tom, when you said that your learners were kind of figuring out how to build the levels. It's that exploration, isn't it? That, okay, this is what I'm learning, but there's other things that I can explore and that I will learn. And I think this gives you an opportunity for that as well as instructions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just the immersion, but the explorative element as well.
Opportunity.
Yeah, and using it for building fluency as well. So when I was teaching a group I taught for 6 months, I was doing half in Microsoft Teams, and we were learning the grammar before, and then we would jump into virtual reality and activate the language. And that was a very special 6 months. Yeah, I was amazed. But I was, to be honest, really grateful to go back to face-to-face teaching, because there's still you can't see someone's face. And even though now we're having a great time, we can see each other's faces. There's something about face-to-face that even this now, seeing you guys with the clarity of your webcams, just doesn't do. So I think for me, the dream setup would be a real face-to-face classroom with the possibility of everyone then putting on their headsets, because you can use the sitting down. There's the standing and the sitting feature. So you don't have to be standing up. You can be sitting, but your avatar is standing and moving around. So then, imagine the classroom, all the students, then they put their headsets on, and they're, basically just going like this with the headset on. So, traveling to different places together. That would be my dream.
You know what? I was just thinking with the creation of these avatars, that in the motivation literature, we talk often about having learners or teachers develop within their own minds a very vivid idea of their ideal selves, right? Wouldn't it be the coolest thing to have your avatar be your ideal self, and then watch your avatar move through life being your ideal self? Wow, you know what? Zoltan Dornier would be like jumping up and down and clapping his hands if he knew that he could that we had ways of developing avatars for ideal selves.
But this was the problem with Second Life, because people would create an avatar that's very different to themselves, and sometimes they'd even fall in love in virtual reality, and then they'd meet up in the real world, and the person would be completely different. So there are some possible dangers of doing that. But it is fun to press the button and suddenly be dressed as a pirate, or I'm sure your imagination is the limit. You could be an animal, you could be a different sex, you could in a role play.
Well, even in some of the old methodologies, I mean, if you go back a couple of decades, we used to do what was called Desuggestopedia, and the idea was to take on another persona, so that you're in a relaxed state when you go to speak and interact in the language. Because heck, if you make a mistake, it wasn't me, it was Juanito.
Yeah, I let themselves off the hook in that way.
Right. So hey, you know what? That wasn't me screwing around. It was my avatar. Hey, teacher, it was my avatar, man.
We got the question: what's the name of the app? So the app itself in the Oculus store is called Immerse, and Immerse is also the name of that software that the teacher will use. So that's the whole platform, if you like. A question: learning in this way is interesting, but learners will prefer isolation. How do we avoid this feeling? I'm not sure if I totally understand your question, but if you say that they might feel isolated, or you say they prefer isolation, I'm just going to respond to that by saying that it does feel like a legitimate connection with someone using this technology. And I think that's better than just being on your own with a self-study book. Yes, it's not as good as face-to-face, but you could say it's the next best thing at the moment, really. I mean, it is a bit weird if you're only just doing virtual reality and you don't have something like Teams or Zoom, because it is really nice to see students' faces. But I have taught students and never seen their real faces and had a great time. Soon the avatars will be more realistic. You might even get like a webcam projection onto the face of an avatar. It's just evolving all the time. So the main concerns are temporary. Another question.
Tom, the other thing is that learners that prefer isolation, there's gonna be somewhat of a problem, because we don't talk to ourselves, right? I mean, so language, I mean, they're in a language class, so isolation really isn't probably going to be a very effective tool for teaching language, right? So what I think we would need to do would be to break down those desires to be isolated, and somehow bring in ideas into the classroom that will excite learners to work together and to speak together, and maybe to do some collaborative writing activities or things like that.
Yeah.
But boy, I mean, if learners prefer isolation, I think the teacher's first task is probably going to be to get them to like each other a little bit.
Yeah. There's like a dong of a clock in the background, which is one of you guys. That's reminding me that we've got 5 minutes to go. I'll very quickly answer the next question, but also respond to Tammy and the person who asked the question, that if you're in a new space and if we're learning to communicate, it seems a bit bizarre to prefer isolation. So again, when we were talking about therapy and being able to overcome the fear of spiders using virtual reality, there's a virtual comedy club in this headset, so you could go and perform a stand-up comedy set, most people's worst nightmare, to a virtual audience, before you end up and go and do an actual presentation in real life. So
wow,
it's all there, and the sky's the limit. Okay, perhaps the last question for today: can this technique lower or reduce mind-wandering effects during learning? Something we all face in the ELT classroom. Really not sure. I mean, I think this is more your department, Leanne, about how you would tackle someone with that particular problem, like mind wandering. We'll have it to different.
I guess it would draw the attention in. What we tend to do is kind of like smaller bursts of learning with certain students, but I do think it just depends on who you've got in your class that particular year, and just getting to know them, what works for them, what the distractions might possibly be in the classroom, and if you can mitigate or minimize those. But I can see, I'm just trying to picture it with my current cohort of learners, and I can see that it would certainly work with some of them, perhaps not all of them, but would lower those thoughts.
So people could experience the devastation of climate change in 10 years' time virtually.
Wow.
And then come back and be like,
about echo anxiety?
Maybe we should actually do something more drastic to help this situation.
This is the cataclysm of 10 years from now. Do you feel anxious yet?
Yes, with great power comes great responsibility. Thank you so much, guys. Leanne, you're going to just take over and give people a bit more information before we finish the stream.
Brilliant. Thank you both as well. It's been lovely talking to you. And thank you, everybody, for sending in your questions and commenting in the chat box. If you liked our session, give us a like. If you loved it, send us a big love heart. And if you're watching on YouTube, give us a big thumbs up. If there's any other teachers that you know that would absolutely love ELTOC, please hit the share button and bring them along. We want to give as much professional development to teachers as we can. Don't forget, of course, to sign up for ELTOC. It should be below, so make sure you click the link and sign up as soon as possible. The spaces are going to fill up, and we want you all, each and every one of you that have attended today, we want you to be there. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us and giving us such a warm welcome. And yeah, Tommy and Tam, thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you, guys. It was a hoot. I had a great
really enjoyed it.
So much.
The buzz.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. It really is motivating us for next week. So thank you for coming, and from all over the world. This is just so cool.
What a great note to end on. Cheers, everybody. Do follow the link. Do book to avoid disappointment, and spread the word. It's going to be a really special and brilliant sequence of webinars. Yeah.
Make sure you sign up.
Bye from us.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
See you then.
Bye.